And then, so yeah, welcome to our start of our Thanksgiving Day lecture, Thanksgiving week lecture that's happening a week early. And again, the schedule, what we're going to go over here is your homework for the Reddit bot. And I'm going to do a lot of implementing a lot of different things about the assignment um, and highlighting some of the big pitfalls that students often encounter on this assignment. For those of you who are here live, I have a second computer up so that I can monitor the chat. And so if you do have questions, feel free to put them in the chat, or you can raise your hand, or just feel free to interrupt me with any questions. I'm going to, let's go ahead and share my screen now. And let's switch over to, this is what we want. Looks like I might have to, there we go. Okay, I need a better system than this to, where did it go? Where is Zoom? There we are. Okay, and back to sharing screen. So part of the purpose of doing this more so Zoom style lecture, video style lecture, is to see a little bit more about how I work when I'm actually like sitting down to program by myself. And so I'm going to do things a little bit differently today than we've seen necessarily in class. And in particular, I'm not going to be using VS Code. I'm going to be doing everything in the terminal. And so here I have open two terminal windows. And these windows are exactly the same as the terminal that you have at the bottom of your screen. And so I can type in commands like the pwd to get my working folder. So here's the working directory that I'm currently in. I've just made a folder for homework 4. And we've seen the ls command that lists all the files in a folder. And I can do the cd command to move around. You should feel free to use VS Code while you're working on this assignment. But when you're, say, after this class, looking at tutorials about how to do different things, everybody's going to have their own particular environment that they like to use, their own particular text editors. VS Code is called an IDE, Interactive Development Environment. And so I'm doing something a little bit different right now just to give you a little bit of practice saying things that are different. And the text editor that I'm going to be using is called Vim, V-I-M. This is one that turns out to be really important for doing a lot of remote programming sort of work. And so it's something that you'll be seeing a lot if you go on to take the data structures course or the big data course with me. So this sort of setup is a little bit of a preview of these future setups that you'll see. But in here, there's this bot-counter.py and this bot.py folder. If I open the bot.py like this, then you'll see the contents of this are the same as you would see inside of like VS Code or whatever other text editor that you're working with. I'm just using a different text editor to do this. And this is actually the exact setup that I use when I'm sort of programming on my own projects, that I'll have two terminal windows open side by side and use this Vim editor on the left one, and then be able to type commands on this right one. So in this homework 4 folder, there are a handful of files that I just want to highlight that I have inside of here. So the first one is, or the first two are this bot-counter.py and this bot.py. These two files are in the GitHub repository for homework 4, and you'll want to download both of them. We'll take a look at both of them here in detail, but bot.py is going to be the program that you'll actually that will be editing part of your assignment. And this bot counter py is part of the grading script that I'll use when actually grading your assignment. And so you have access to it to see like how good your assignment is doing. You'll also notice that I have this pra.ini file in here. So this is not something that's uploaded to GitHub. That's the same pra.ini file that you've been working with for all of your projects so far. And then here are the different lab files with the pra lab and the Mad Libs lab. And you won't need the contents of your pra lab for the homework, but you will need the contents of your Mad Libs lab. Let's see, any questions about anything setup-wise before we get started here?
Good question, Professor.
Yeah.
So like you were mentioning with the pra file, we never really have to change it unless we want to do like one of the extra credits with adding more bots. Is that the only time when we would change it and just add more bots?
That is correct, that your pra.ini file, whatever you've been using for your previous labs, you can use that exact same thing for this homework without changing it. There's some extra credits that require you to add more bots, and those would require you to add more entries in pra.ini. But if you're not doing those particular extra credits, then no changes to pra.ini needed. Okay, yeah, good question. So the first thing that we're going to do here is we're going to see how this grading script right here, this botcounter.py works. And we're going to be referencing this script a lot today, and you should be referencing it a lot while you're working on your own assignment. And so if we just go ahead and run this python3 bot_counter.py, then you'll get output that looks something like this. This usage information tells us how we're supposed to be using the bot counter script. I just recently made a slight update to this botcounter.py script. It had a previous typo in it where I was forgetting to import one of the, I copied and pasted something bad, so it wasn't importing the argparse library like it needed to. And so if you downloaded this file a long time ago, you might need to re-download it in order to get it to work. But if you're getting output that looks like this, then you should be good. Everything should work. And so in order to use this, botcounter.py, and then -- username, and then whatever the username is that you want to be checking. For this particular lecture, I've just created a new Reddit account that we'll be using called lecture-bot, LECTURE-BOT. I'll go ahead and hit enter, and it replies a whole bunch of different statistics about what our bot has done. And we'll go over the meaning of all of these statistics here as we're going over the assignment. But for this particular account, it hasn't done anything yet. I haven't created any posts, no replies, no comments. And so that's why everything right now is 0. And so as we add more features to our bot, we'll let it run for a little bit. It'll do some different things, and these numbers will go up. And we'll use these numbers here to determine whether or not what we've done is correct or incorrect. So it's important to make sure that this is working. There's a question in the chat about what exactly did I type to the right of the botcounter.py right here. And I'll just real quick adjust my screen so maybe it's easier to see. This is the command that I typed right here. Python3 botcounter.py -- username equals lecturebot. So here I put lecturebot because that is just the name of the bot that we're working with today, but you can you should use your particular username right there. One of the things that I'll highlight real quick about this this script is that once you've created a lot of different comments with your bot, this script can take up to about a ½ hour to run. If it's taking a long time to run, just you have to wait about a half hour for it to finish. Let me see, I just saw a comment flash up. The question is this right here, where should it be typed? And it must be typed in the terminal. So if you were in VS Code, then it'd be on the bottom part of the screen in the terminal, and it has to be when you're not in the interactive Python mode. Good questions. Any other questions so far? Okay, so then in order just to, real quick, make sure that this is working, I'm going to come over here. And over here, I have two Firefox windows open right now. On the left over here, I'm logged in as my lecture bot account. And on the right over here, I'm logged in as a different account, the CS40 bot. And I have two different accounts just so that we can, we'll be manually creating some comments with the different accounts to check how things are working. And so if, as you're working on your homework assignment, you're working with like somebody else, I'd strongly recommend on this assignment in particular to be working with somebody else so that they can be strategically creating comments that will help you test your bot, and you can help them in a similar way. Otherwise, you'll have to have multiple accounts open up to do the sort of tests that I'm going to do today. And in order to, here I'm logged in two separate Firefox windows. In order to do this, you can see that this left window over here is what's called the private browsing mode window. That on my normal Firefox window, I press this hamburger button and then went down to the new private window right here. And that opened up another window where I'm not logged into Reddit, and I just went into Reddit and logged in as my lecture bot. And so what I'm going to do real quick is let's just go to our BotTown subreddit. I'll pick any particular post in here, it doesn't matter, and just real quick create a post of this is a test like this, save that, and now I'm going to come back over here and run my botcounter.py script, and hopefully that will be updated with new numbers here. And yes, in fact it is. We can see that the length of my comments is 1 now. This number right here is the total number of comments that I've made. So I've made 1 comment. Here's the total number of top level comments that I've made. It is 1 comment. And I still have 0 replies. We'll get to what the difference between a valid comment is and a not valid comment here in a second. But first, let's just make sure that this replies number is also going to increase if I make a reply. So back over here to Reddit, and let's just reply to this message right here, and another test, little happy face, save that, come back over here, run that, and that is good. We got another reply right here. So now what's the question about a valid top-level comment versus a regular top-level comment? One of our goals with this assignment is that your bot should roughly behave like a human behaves. And when a human is looking at a post, it's not going to make, say, like 100 different top-level comments on the same post. That if there's one post, it's just going to reply to that post only 1 time. And if your bot replies to a post multiple times, then we're not going to count both of those comments as valid comments. So here right now we have 1 reply to this post right here. So this is a valid top-level comment. If I come back over here, you can see valid top-level comments is equal to 1. It's that 1 reply. But now if I come back over here and I add another top level comment, so this is top level comment number 2, and save that. So now LectureBot right here has 2 comments, this one and this one, and they're both top level comments to this post right here. And this is sort of bad bot behavior because a human would not do this. And so if I come back over here and run this, you can see that my top level comments is now equal to 2, but my valid top level comments is equal to 0. These comments are not valid because they are siblings of each other. These 2 comments right here are not valid because they're siblings of each other. Anytime you have 2 comments that are siblings of each other, that's what it means to not be valid, and we won't count those towards any of the totals of comments that you need to get in order to get your different extra credit options. Are there any questions so far about the difference between the valid top level comment and a regular top level comment? Okay. Similarly, there's certain requirements that you have on the replies. And for a reply to a comment to be valid, something that's going to count as a good comment, it has to satisfy 2 criteria. First is that it has to not be replying to yourself. So if I come back over here and under this LectureBot right here, if I reply to myself like this and say replying to myself, sad face, we don't want your bot to ever reply to itself because a human would never reply to themselves. Or maybe some people do, but it's just not a natural thing to do. So when you do this, we're not going to count it as a good comment. So we now have 2 reply comments right here, but only one of those is not a self-reply. The other one is a self-reply because I replied to myself. And so that's why this number right here and this number right here did not go up. If I wanted to make another reply that was valid, here's a comment right here. I can reply to this one. Reply, valid reply, happy face. Save that. And now I'll go back over to the terminal, run that. And now my number of valid replies right here, not self-replies, has just increased by 1 because I made another comment that was not replying to myself. This last sort of filtering requirement right here is that not only can you not be replying to yourself, but you shouldn't have a reply that's a sibling to your own reply. So here, if I made another reply, so we have this comment right here, I'll reply to it. Let's see, it's already, it's giving me this reply button here, so there's no actual button through the Reddit interface that I can use to make this reply, but in your code, you'll be able to do this. I could reply to this, and then there would be 2 sibling comments right here. That's not something that we want to have happen. Those 2 siblings would not count. And so if we replied, had 2 siblings, this number would not go up, even though this number continues to go up. So this number down here is the total number of valid top-level comments that you've done, valid top-level comments, plus the number of valid replies. And this number right here is what all of your extra credit criteria is graded on. And this number right here is also how I'll determine whether the tasks that you have up here are implemented correctly or incorrectly. So this valid comments number right there, I'm going to go back over here to the requirements and scroll down to the grading rubric, the optional tasks. There's these 3 optional tasks right here about getting at least a certain number of valid comments posted. The valid comments, the number of valid comments is this number right here. And in order to get this number big enough, you'll have to both have your bot.py up here, everything implemented correctly, and have it run for a long enough period of time so that it's able to generate, say, 1,000 different valid comments to get the 2 points of extra credit. And then if you get those 1,000 valid, if you get the 1,000 valid comments, you've also gotten 500 and you've also gotten 100, so you get all 6 of these points. So that's the meaning behind all of these numbers right here. And it's really important that as we're working through actually implementing the bot.py file, we understand what all of these numbers mean, because we'll need to be referencing all of these numbers in order to just check that the things that we're doing in the bot.py file are correct. So are there any questions about what these numbers down here mean, or how these numbers relate to the grading of the extra credit stuff? Go ahead, Eddie.
Yes, I have just a simple question regarding that. I wasn't here for the first 5 minutes. What is valid? I understand valid replies are the ones that you're not replying to yourself. But what are the valid top level comments?
So it's a good question. So I'm gonna real quick summarize all of these again. So this one right here is the total number of comments that you've made. This one right here is the number of top level comments. And so both of these I think are pretty straightforward. And then the total number of replies, also pretty straightforward. And so the total comments is equal to the sum of these two. 2 plus 3 is 5. And then the question was, what is the valid top level comments? A top level comment is valid. Any comment is valid if it does not have a sibling comment. So right here, currently I'm logged in as LectureBot. We have LectureBot right here and LectureBot right here. So these are the 2 top level comments that LectureBot has created, but these comments are not valid because they are siblings of each other. And they are both replies to the same submission. And because they're both replies to the same submission, that's like a clue that this is a bot doing stuff, that there's a bot posting messages, that a human would only reply to a submission once, but a bot, if it's buggy, might reply to the same submission multiple times. And so the requirement for you is that when you're replying to a submission, you only reply to that submission once as a top level comment. If you reply multiple times, like this one and this one, then those will not count towards the number of valid comments you have.
So, Professor, we're going to submit to multiple threads or submissions, if you will.
Eventually, we'll be submitting to many, many different submissions, all the submissions here on the BotTown subreddit. So previously, I was in this practice posting messages here submission. Let's go to the section 2 class post submission and say new top level comment. So it's a typo, that's okay, it's Reddit, typos are expected. And come back over here, rerun it. That comment is all by itself in that submission, so that comment is a valid top level comment. The 2 top level comments in the other submission are invalid, but we have 1 valid one as part of that submission now. And then, yeah, I said I was going to summarize all of these things again. So this one, again, something is valid if it does not have a sibling. Here we have the not self replies. So if you reply to yourself, then it doesn't count. And replies can also be not valid the same way top level comments can be not valid by replying to the same message twice. So like over here, if I reply to this message multiple times, those replies don't count. I should only reply to a message a single time. Any other questions about the botcounter.py output? Okay, So then let's get started on the actual coding stuff and our bot.py file. Anytime let's see, so in this bot.py file, there's a bunch of these fix me annotations. And there are, up at the top, some fix me annotations that do not have tasks associated with them. And if we scroll down a little ways, there are fix me annotations that have a task with a number next to them. And there are 6 of these numbered fix me annotations. Each one of these numbered fix me annotations is one of the parts of your assignment that is worth 3 points. And so implementing all of these fix me annotations is worth a total of 18 points. So it's the majority of your homework assignment. And if you implement these fix me's correctly, you'll also be able to get as many valid comments as you want. And so you'll also get those 6 extra credit points. That'll give you a total of 26 points just from doing these required tasks. And then if you want to get more points than that, there's the other different optional tasks that you can choose from. The first thing that I'm going to do is just try running this bot.py file. So Python 3 bot.py. And you should get an error message that looks something like this about your pra.ini file not being set up correctly. And that's because our Reddit call initialization is not defined correctly right here. That when you're, anytime you're connecting to Reddit, you'll have whatever your specific command is that connects to your pra.ini file, however you've created that. And so whatever this line looked like for you in your previous labs, that's what you'll want to put right here. And so I'll go ahead and run that, fix that, redo this down here. And we see that that error message has gone away, and I'm on to a new error message down here. If we look at the line number that this error message is happening on, so whenever, in order to find that line number, we start from the bottom and go up line by line until we find the name of our file. All of these files right here that I've highlighted so far, these are in the pra library. And so that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for this one right here, because it says bot.py and then line 16. So that's this line right here of bot.py. And what's going on in this line is that my submission URL right here is just empty. And so we're getting this client exception, invalid URL, because this thing right here that I'm passing in is not a valid URL. You're allowed to put whatever submission that you want right here. But for testing purposes, I'm going to go ahead and create a brand new submission. That way I can guarantee exactly what the contents of that submission are. And so that as I run my various tests, it will be, I'll be able to see exactly what it is. So my recommendation is for everybody to create your own new submission. So that'd be looking like coming over here, pressing this submit a new text post, and just call it whatever you want. This is my test submission for LectureBot. And down here, just blah, blah, blah. Doesn't matter what it is. And I'm not a robot. I'm just impersonating one right now. Oh, traffic lights. There we go. And submit. And now this URL up here is the URL that I'm going to copy and paste into my code. And this is where my bot is going to be working. And again, I'm recommending that you not try to post to mine right here, but to your own that you've created. That way you have control over it, and you know exactly what the contents are of it as we're working. And so over here, let's paste that in like that. And And now hopefully this should actually connect. Go ahead and run that. And making some progress down here. We get at the very bottom down here, line 116, time is not defined. So I'm going to go to line 116. It's the very last line of this file down here, time.sleep of 1. So we'll talk about here in a second why we have this down here after we just get our program running. But if you remember, this time .sleep function waits for 1 second. Whatever you pass in here is how long it's going to wait for. And there's this time library that we have to import. So I just forgot to import the time library before I gave you the code. So let's come up to the top and up here do import time like that. And now, now hopefully everything should be working. And there we go. Once you get everything working, you should have output that looks something like this. It'll have these sort of big paragraphs going on, and every second you have a little timer like this, and every second it'll output some different information. Anytime your program is sort of running forever like this and you want to get it to stop, the way to do that is pressing Control-C, and you'll have to make sure that you have your terminal selected when you press Control-C in order for it to stop out of the program. If you had your source code area selected, then pressing Control-C wouldn't do anything. You'd have to have your terminal selected. Let's see, one last thing that I'm going to do. So we've fixed these two fix me annotations right here, gotten these two sections of code to work. And just to make things a little bit more organized for us, I'm going to go ahead and delete these lines from our file, just as a reminder that I don't have to come back there and look at that again. And we'll save that. Any questions about just the things that I did just to get the program so that it's in a state where it can run? Go ahead, Eddie.
Yeah, because I wasn't here, so how do I use the script you had, the ball counter.py?
Sorry, your audio was kind of garbled. Can you say that again?
Yes, I wasn't here when you guys talking about the bot counter. So how do I use it?
So, sorry, if you missed the discussion about the bot counter.py, then we're going to have to
Okay, no problem.
yeah,
Thank you.
move on from that, and you'll have to come back to watch that. Any other questions about just getting the bot.py so that it actually runs and the things that I did for that?
Just quickly, what were the 2 lines you deleted again? I think I just missed it when you did
Sure.
it fast.
What I had previously, there were these fix me annotations in the code in order to highlight that you're supposed to fix something about this. And since I've gone through and I've now fixed these things right here, I just deleted these lines that said fix me so that I know I'm done with this, that I don't need to come back and keep thinking about it. So it's not something that you're required to do. It's just comments that I removed, but that'll help maybe keep things a little bit more organized.
Do you think you can go over again how you ran the time.sleep thing? Because I think it says like time's not defined.
Yeah, so the question is, when I was running the code the first time, or one of the times, you got an error message, a name error saying something like time is not defined. And this was on, so right now for me, it's on line 114 of the file. So line 114 of my file, time.sleep right here. And so again, anytime you're doing like something dot something else, this thing to the left of the dot might be something that needs to be imported. And in this case, that's the problem. We haven't imported time, so we don't have access to this function yet. And so the way to fix a problem like this is that we'll have to go up to the top where all my imports are and import time up here to save that, to fix that. And now when I run it, I'm not going to get that error message.
So how do you know, like, for when you import time, like sometimes you have to do like the Python 3 install. How do you know which ones are like built in and which ones you can, or which ones you have to install?
Good question. The question is, in general, which ones do you have to, how do you know which ones you have to pip install and which ones you don't? And there's no like hard and fast rule about like, it's not obvious, for example, just from the name of the module. You just, in this case, time is something that's built into Python, and so it's something that you don't have to pip install, it's just built in. I guess the thing to do is just try doing import whatever. If it doesn't work, then Google import whatever, and it'll show you what the pip install command is to get it.
Okay, great, thank you.
Good questions. Any other questions about getting the bot.py to run? Okay. So at this point, we've now got our program running, but we haven't even like talked at all about what the program does or what the like the different tasks inside the program are, and that's intentional. That and the reason it's intentional is that you need. One of my goals for this assignment is to help you get comfortable with working with code that you don't know what it does. Because every time when I sit down to work on code, I'm having to work with somebody else's code that I haven't seen before, and somehow get it working without fully understanding what the code does yet. Because one of the best ways to figure out what it does is to actually like run it and interact with it. And so all this like procedures that we just went through of running it, seeing what the error message is, and then doing the fix for that error message. That's just a standard thing that I always start with before I even like actually read the code. I just run the code and fix whatever error messages come up until I get a program that actually runs. So now let's talk a little bit more about the contents of this file and what we're actually going to have to be doing programming-wise for it. So up at the top here, we're just things that we've seen before, getting a submission ready that we'll be able to work with. And then down right here on line 26, I have this infinite loop. And so while loops, one of the things about them is that they can be infinite. A for loop can never be infinite, but a while loop can. And in particular, the thing in the condition right here is always going to be true. So this is just going to run forever. As soon as we get to the end of the loop, it's just going to come back to the top and keep going forever. And a while back at the beginning of this assignment, I mentioned that there was this thing called a daemon in computer science. And a daemon is just a program that runs forever, sits in the background of your computer and continues doing whatever it does. So the fact that we have this infinite loop right here, this is what's making our program a daemon. Then up here we have this little paragraph of print statements up here. And because this program is going to be running forever, one of the things that's going to be really helpful for us while we're debugging is to know like just when each iteration of this while loop actually happened. And so that's what this line right here is doing. That this datetime.datetime.now function call just prints out the current time. So it corresponds to this line right here, new iteration at the current date and time. And then here's our submission.title and submission.url that we defined above. Those will be also potentially useful for us while we're debugging. So just printing this out as a log of what our program has done so far. And then comes those 6 fix me tasks. All 6 of these fix me tasks are inside of this while loop. And eventually, basically what they're building up to is every iteration of this while loop is going to post a new comment somewhere on Reddit. So each iteration of this loop will post a single comment. And since this loop runs forever, your bot will continue posting comments forever. And then just again, as a reminder, you can press the Control-C in your terminal to stop your bot from running. Down here at the bottom, again, I added this time.sleep of 1, just so that we're not just like outputting all thousands and thousands of these messages like instantly. It's waiting 1 second at least on each iteration before running the next iteration and doing whatever it's going to do. So if we implement these 6 tasks right here, then our program is going to correctly be posting valid comments all over the BotTown subreddit, and you'll be getting full credit on all these parts of the assignments. So I've broken down these 6 tasks, or I've broken down this big idea of posting comments into these 6 tasks in order to help us get started on this. And for each of these tasks, there's also a print statement down here that's going to help us figure out whether we completed that task correctly or incorrectly. And we're not going to go over all of these tasks sort of big picture level. At first, we're just going to focus on one at a time and make sure that we get that one task implemented and that it's working correctly. And then once it is, we'll move on to the next task. So here, this first task, all we have to do is get a list of all of the comments in the whatever submission that we're looking at. And so I have a hint for you about, remember that if we just do so we have our submission. Let's see, there we go. We have our submission.comments. If we just do this, this is only the top level comments. In order to get all of the comments, we'll do submission.comments.list like this. And that gives us all of our comments. But in order to get the, like actually click all the buttons and do the replacing, then we had to do the submission.comments.replace more with limit equals none, like this. And again, this is something that is going to take potentially a long time to run because we're limited to only 1 Reddit request per second. And so after I get things working a little bit, I'll add this back in, but for now, I'm going to comment it out. And we'll have our all comments be equal to submission.comments like the list, like that. That's all that we have to do for this particular task. Pretty simple. But so the second hint down here, what it's saying is that anytime we're working on one of these tasks, we really need to make sure that it's working correctly. And ideally, in the past, in the last assignment, in order to make sure something was working correctly, I was using the doc tests. But it's not really possible to write doc tests for this kind of code that's interacting with Reddit, because Reddit changes all the time. So I can't have like one set of perfect gold standard doc tests. And so this print statement down here is what I'm going to use as my reference to make sure that things are working correctly. I'm going to go ahead and rerun this code like this, python3 bot.py, and we can see that the length of all comments being outputted is 0. And let's do Control-C to stop that. Let's come back over to Firefox. And as we're working throughout this assignment, we're going to be bouncing back and forth between Firefox and our code all the time. And so here on, this is just the submission that I'm working with. And so we can see that there is, in fact, no no comments right now, and so that's correct. I'll just create a quick example comment like this, save it, there we go. And if we come back over to our code, rerun it, then hopefully we should be getting, well, maybe it'll take a second or two to update. Let this run for a second. Let's see. So I have all comments equals submission.comments.list up here. Length of all comments. This is my submission up here. Come back over here, refresh this. That comment still exists. Let's see. Let's stop that for a second. Let's go ahead and convert this into an actual list like this. I don't think that's necessary, but that's what my solution has. And well, what do you know? There we have length of all comments is now equal to 1. I don't know if that's because I added this list function or because Reddit just finally decided to update itself. Let's go ahead and take away that list function. And now it's working again, and now it's actually at 1. So that list function didn't actually do anything. We just had to wait a little bit longer for Reddit to run. One of the things that, so I glossed over up here, this little hint right here. You can see there's, so this while true, I personally find it while I'm working on this assignment a little bit annoying that it's just running over and over and over again. I think it's more helpful for me if it just runs a single time, and then I can look at the output at that one time, and then I can run it again a second time later if I do want it to run later. And so what this hint right here is saying is that just while you're actually debugging your code, if you change this to an if statement instead of a while statement, it will only run once, and that'll just make the terminal down here a little bit cleaner. I only have one output down here that I have to look at instead of many different outputs. So now on to task 1. This is the first sort of real task that we have to do. And so up here we have our all comments, and this is all of the comments. And down here we have to remove all of the comments that were generated by our bot. And again, anytime the verb that you're using is like remove or filter, somehow taking something away from a list, then what we want to do is this accumulator pattern of starting with an empty list and appending onto it. And so that's what this hint up here is saying, is just saying to use the accumulator pattern. So we'll do a for loop over all the comments for comment in all comments. We want to remove the comments that are not my comments. And eventually what we're going to be doing is we're going to be building up a list of all of the comments that it makes sense for me to reply to. And so the reason that I'm removing my comments is because I don't want to reply to my own comment. That's why we're removing comments that I actually made. And let's see, so if comment.author equals, and then my bot's name is lecture bot like this, then not my comments.append comment. And then down here, what this print statement is doing is printing out all of the results from this filtering up here. And so again, this hint is saying that Reddit doesn't directly provide this number to us anywhere in the Reddit interface. And so that's why you have to be a little bit careful with this number right here and making sure that it is the exact correct number. The reason that we created our special submission on this subreddit is just so that I can easily check whether these numbers are correct, because I know what the right answer is. And so down here, I'm getting that the length of all comments is 1 and the length of not my comments is 1. So let's go back over here to Reddit. And here you can see that this is actually not correct, what's happening right here. That here, lecture bot is, that's me, that's my bot. And so this should be filtered out. We don't want this example comment contained in the contained in the output here. And what's happening here is that let's go ahead and try to debug why something like this might happen. And in order to do that, let's print out what this comment.author is equal to. So comment.author equals, comma, comment.author, and print that out again. And so comment.author equals lecturebot. Okay, so it seems like this right here should equal this right here. They look like they're equal to each other. But for some reason, they're not equal to each other. And so let's do one more thing. Let's print type of comment.author equals type of comment.author, like this. Save that and rerun this down here. And so now we have our comment.authors being printed out as lecturebot, but the type of comment.author is, again, a redditor and not a string. And whenever you have an equals sign, remember that in order for something to be equal to something else, they have to be of the same type. So this type over here is a string, and this type over here is not a string. This type is a redditor, this redditor like this. And so in order for this thing on the left to ever possibly be equal to this thing on the right, we must convert this thing on the left to be a string. And the way I'll do that is with that str function like this. Str like that, run this, and string comment.author equals lecturebot, string lecturebot, let's see, string comment.author. We'll get to questions here in a little bit, equals lecturebot. Then it's doing the appending. I had this logic backwards. Actually, yeah, so I'm appending here. If they're equal to each other, I want not my comments to be appending only if they're not equal to each other. So let's change this from an equals to a not equals, like that, and rerun this. And there we go. Now we have length of all comments equals 1, and a length of not my comments equals 0. So that that looks good because there is one comment and there is one comment that is not my comment. Before I get to questions though, I really want to check this and make sure that it's actually working. So we've tested it in one case so far, but that's not enough yet to convince me that that it's working, because so far the only comment in there is actually created by the lecture bot. And so this is where the other Firefox window is going to come in handy. I'm going to visit this same submission with a different Reddit account. Remember that on this right-hand window, I'm logged in with CS40bot. And so now I'm going to create a message, message from another bot like this, save it. And so now there are two top-level comments here, one created by lecturebot, one created by CS40bot. Over here on the left-hand side, if we refresh this, now we have both of these comments displaying, one created by the CS40bot, one created by lecturebot. And so now if I come over to here, I should expect that there is one comment from CS40, so this should happen one time. This right here should happen one time. And so the length of not my comments should be 1, but the total comments should be 2. Let's go ahead and run my experiment, test that hypothesis. And it looks like that hypothesis is correct, that the length of not my comments is 1, and the length of all comments here is 2. So that's giving me more confidence that my code is correct, but I'm still not 100% convinced that it's correct because right now I'm only looking at top level comments. And we want to make sure that we are in fact including not just top level comments, but replies as well. So I'm going to come back over here and let's make a reply. Let's reply to lecture bot right here. There's the reply button saying reply and save. And so here is a reply by CS40 bot. I'm also going to make a reply by the lecture bot. So another reply, happy face. And let's just refresh this so we can see all the messages that exist. Refresh it again, refresh this one, there we go. Now there's 4 messages, 2 messages by lecture bot, 2 messages by CS40 bot. And so my, oops, I pressed a button, I didn't mean to. So my guess now is that there should be 4 messages total being displayed and 2 messages that are in the not my comments. Let's come back over here, test that hypothesis. And so we have 4 messages being displayed total, 2 messages being displayed that are not my comments. And so now I'm pretty confident that this code is working. I had added some print statements up here to help me debug. And I don't think that I need these print statements anymore because I'm pretty confident that my code is working. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to comment them out. I don't want to fully delete them because I think maybe at some point in the future, I might discover that there's a bug in here and I'll need to revisit these print statements. And so by having them commented out, it gives me a good hint about things that I might want to look at again in the future. But I also don't want them cluttering up my output down here. So that's why I'm commenting them out and not just actually leaving them directly in the code. So I'll save that again, come down here and run it. And there we go. So we just did a lot of stuff. So now's a good time to pause for questions. Eddie, you had your hand up earlier. Do you still have a question?
Oh, no, it's my question was actually just a reminder that the not my comment was upside down in terms of logic.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Any other questions about anything we've done so far?
Quick question, Professor. So to do that, testing our hypothesis, should we go ahead and make another maybe 1 or 2 more accounts with different emails and then try to make our own submission and make sure that we're getting the same the numbers that we think we should be getting?
Yeah, so as you're working on this, multiple accounts is helpful, either that or having somebody else make some account, using somebody else's account to post messages for you. Yeah, good question. Any other questions?
Could you show your code for the all comments again? Because I'm, for some reason, not able to get mine to work.
It just is this right here.
So do you not have the all comments as an empty accumulator?
So it'd be okay to start it off with all comments equals the empty list like this. Yeah, this is what the starter code had. The main purpose of this starter code was just so that this down below didn't give, so that this did not give an error message. But you can keep this or take it out, but it's just important that if you keep it, this has to be below it because this is what's, these are the actual comments. And so if this happened first and this happened second, then you'd be overriding it with an empty list. So I'll also take the, since we're right here, the time to remind us that currently we do not have this uncommented, and it's not an issue right now because we only have 4 comments in the submission that we're working with. So there's no buttons to click to get more comments. But as your bots are running, there's going to eventually be thousands or hundreds of thousands of comments in all of these submissions that you're all working with. So not only will there be the comments created by your bots and the other students' bots, but I'm going to have a bunch of bots running just to ensure that there's lots of comments all over the place. And so eventually you'll need to take this out in order to get correct answers. Eddie, did you raise your hand again?
Yes, actually, what's wondering about the click all function, but apparently we don't need that just yet.
I couldn't quite hear what you said, but it sounded like
Yeah, the click all. No, it's I was wondering about if we're gonna use the click all function dot more function.
Yeah, the replace more. Yeah, we don't need to use it yet, but we will.
Okay, gotcha.
You'll need, for your final submission, you need to uncomment this. So far there's two pieces of code that we'll have to change for your final submission. This one right here and this one right here. Just for our initial debugging to make things quick and more efficient, we're making these two lines the more efficient version. Okay, so on to our next task, task 2. So our next goal is that to actually start posting comments. And the idea is that if we have not created a comment yet on a submission, then we'll post a top level comment. If we have created a comment, then we'll post a reply. So the way that we know if we've created a comment so far is that the length of not my comments is equal to the length of all comments. So if these two things are equal to each other, then we have not commented. So the has not commented variable will be equal to true. If we have commented, these two things will not be equal to each other, and so this will be false. In this case, we've already made a comment, so my expectation is that this will turn out to be false. Let's go ahead and test that reply, or test that hypothesis by printing out this variable. So let's do print has not commented equals comma has not commented, like that, and go ahead and run this. And again, one of the things that you'll notice is that every time I'm printing something out in this assignment, I'm always telling myself exactly what it is that I'm printing. So here is the has not commented, and it's equal to false. This is going to be extremely important that you do that in this assignment as you're doing your debugging, because there is just going to be so much output down here, and it's going to be really hard to figure out what goes along with what if you're not printing it out. In this case, if I had just done something like print has not commented, which is something that a lot of students are tempted to do. I appreciate the laziness that this is easier to type right here than this one up here, so you default to the lazy thing, and I love laziness. But ultimately, this is more work because it means, oh, now I have to sort through this, and there's this false sitting right here, but what is this false? So you have to really think about it, put in some mental energy in order to associate it with this right here. And in this case, it's maybe not too bad because there's only one thing that's like a true false value, so I can probably go through and figure it out. But as you're going through this, like if there's actually in the while loop, for example, then it would become much harder to figure things out. So I strongly encourage you to always, when you have a print statement, structure the print statement like this. It'll be very important on this assignment. In future classes after this class, anytime I see a student's piece of code and it has a print statement without an explanation of what the print statement is for, I put that student in a 5-minute timeout and I don't answer any questions from that student for 5 minutes. So I won't do that in this class because it's still an intro class. but this is just important habit to get into. Always tell yourself what you're printing. I have literally lost months of my life due to print statements that do not have an explanation, and I think I'm working on one thing, but it's actually something totally different. So save yourself that headache and actually type it out. Okay, but so yeah, so has not commented is false right now because we've actually made a comment. So let's come back over here and let's delete our comment so that we don't have that problem anymore, or so that we don't have a top level comment. There we go, no top level comment. And let's go ahead and delete this comment as well. So now LectureBot does not have any comments at all in this post. And if we come down here and rerun this like so, then there we go. Now we get has not commented equals true. So that gives me some good evidence and confidence that this section of code so far is working. And you might have been confident that this code was going to be working because this line right here is a line that I gave you, but this line right here depends on not my comments working and all comments working. And so it's your code that determines these two things right here. And so this really is testing your code, making sure this works. And so this is one other piece of evidence right here that the previous code that we've done has been correct. Okay, so now we can get to our actual next task here, task 2. And if the person has not commented, if your bot has not commented, then the goal is to actually create a top level comment. In order to do that, in order to create a comment, then what we have to do is the submission.reply. So it's a submission.reply, submission because we're going to a top level comment, and reply is what makes the comment. And whatever we pass inside of here is going to be the contents of that top level comment. So here is my comment. We'll start it off like that, just as a quick test. Run this. And so here it has not commented equals true. And there's many ways that I could check to see if things worked. I could go over to Firefox and check to see if the comment appears, and we'll do that in a second. But another way is that now if I run this again, since I just made a comment, this should come out to be false. So let's run this, and there we go. Has not commented is equal to false. So that gives me some pretty good confidence that we just made a comment here with this command when we ran it before. If we come back over to Reddit and refresh this page, then there we go. Here's my comment saying, here's my comment. This isn't quite done with the task yet though, because what we need for our comment is to actually be the random text generated from the lab. And so let's go ahead and delete this again. Are you sure? Yes, I am. And come back over here. And so my hint is to use the generate comment function that you created in your lab to do this. So let's go ahead and I'll make a new variable. Let's say text equals generate comment like that. And then we'll put the text inside of the reply like that. I deleted this pass command. Pass doesn't do anything, so I could leave it or not, doesn't matter. Just for aesthetics, I'll delete it. And now we'll go ahead and run this. And we get this error message here, a name error because the generate comment function is not defined. And so it's a name error because this thing doesn't exist. Way back at the top, so I'm going to go back to the top of my file up here. There was this fix me that we just kind of glossed over. And this fix me here says copy your generate comment function from the Mad Libs assignment to this spot right here. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm just typing in some commands into my Vim text editor for opening up the other file. And so here's my Mad Libs. We're just going to do it with the Python. I love Python posting, but yours should actually be the whatever comments that you created for your lab. And then since I've done this I'll go ahead and delete that fix me now too. And now that I've done this and generate comment is defined, when I run this down here, it should actually work, hopefully. So has not commented equals true because I deleted the top level comment. Let's go ahead and do our test again of seeing if, there we go, it's posting something, has not commented, is now equal to false. And if we come back here over to Firefox and refresh this page, then we get our random Python message of I love coding, like that. So let's go back to task 2, wherever that was. There we go. So another pretty simple task right there. Any questions about that? Go ahead, Eddie.
Yeah, Professor. So what I did for the MATLib lab, I didn't change the replacement and the lab list. Is that okay? Well, I will be changing it for the homework, but is that okay if I don't change it for the lab?
The lab is required that you change it in order to get credit on the lab.
Gotcha. But if I already post a decent amount of the comments,
then you'll have to just change it and post more.
Okay. So I don't need to delete the previous one.
You don't need to delete them. Yeah.
Thank you.
Good question. Any other questions so far? Okay. So the next task is probably the hardest, or the next 2 tasks put together, probably the hardest 2 tasks in the this part of the assignment. The idea is, or the purpose of this is that if we've already created a top level comment, so up here we've already created a top level comment, then down here what we need to do is we need to post a not top level comment, post a reply. So come back over here. The idea is that we're going to, so we've already gone through, removed all of the comments that I have, that contain me. So we've already removed this comment, and so we have a list of these 2 comments right here. And we need a list of, and we're going to pick one of these randomly to reply to. That's what this comments without replies right here list is supposed to be. I'm not going to implement this for you. This is something that you're going to have to implement on your own. But we'll see some test cases here that you should be focusing on and thinking about as you're working here in a second. This task 4 down here, the idea, so randomly select a comment from the comments without replies list, and then reply to that comment. So comment without replies, we'll just start this out as being, what was the thing called? Not my comments, like this. And then down here, the idea in task 4 is you just randomly select something from here. So saying something like comment equals random.choice of comments without replies, and then reply to this comment in the same way that that you did up here. So comment.reply, generate text like that. Let's go ahead and run that. Let's see, generate text is not the name of it. What's the name of the function? Generate comment. Like that, come down here, run it. And let's just run it a couple of times. And we can see each time that the length of the comments is increasing. And then we're getting some weird exceptions. That comment has been deleted on a field parent, so it doesn't want you to reply to a comment that's been deleted. keep running this. Still doing this. It's still wanting to reply to that deleted comment, and so it's getting this weird exception. In order to fix this exception, one of the things that we can do, anytime we have an exception, there's two strategies that we can use. There is the ask for forgiveness or ask for permission strategy. In this case, we'll use the ask for forgiveness strategy of we'll try posting the comment. And so anytime you're using this strategy, you find what is the line that's causing the offending exception, line 154. So this is line 154. We're replying to a comment that we're not allowed to reply to. So let's just try to do that. And if we fail, so accept all of this stuff to the left of the colon right here. If we fail, then we'll just pass. We'll do nothing. And that's okay. The while loop will just continue going on, and so it'll continue posting comments and whenever it replies to a deleted one, tries to reply to a deleted one, then it'll just skip it. Let's see if that works. Here it's a little bit hard to test whether this actually worked or didn't work, because our randomness is making it so that sometimes we'll pick the deleted comment and sometimes we won't pick the deleted comment. But you can see that if we go back and look through sort of these archives of logs, so here the length of all comments is 6. Here the length of all comments is 5. So that gives me some good evidence that between these two runs, I posted a comment. But if we scroll up just a little bit, here the length of these two comments, they're both 5. So that gives me some good evidence that on this particular run right here, I did not post a comment. And so this try except block is what happened. I could be a little bit maybe better in my output right here, helping me debug in the future as I'm looking through these logs by changing this to actually say print not replying to a comment that has been deleted, like that. And in order to test this again, what I want to do is I want it to just make a lot of comments here for a little bit. And so I'm going to change this if statement up here back to a while loop so that it'll loop through a little bit and post a lot of comments. And we'll see if we ever can get that, that message to come up about not replying to a deleted comment. Yep, and there we go. So I'm going to press Control-C now to stop it. And so here on this particular iteration, we did not get that message because it did reply. But this one up here, we say get not replying to a comment that has been deleted. So on these iterations up here, it skipped the commenting step. Was that Sophia that you had your hand up?
Yeah, I had a quick question about the try comment.reply generate comment and then the accept. So I saw you did accept the exceptions. Is there a reason for why specifying the error is better than just saying try and then accept pass?
Yeah, so the question is, what if we had done this instead of specifying the exception right here? This is an extremely dangerous thing to do. And so my explanation here is going to go on a little bit of a tangent, but we'll get back to it. So whenever you're working at a company, so like Google or Facebook, Microsoft, any of these companies, major companies like that, startups, open source projects that are not affiliated with a company, there's this process called code review. And in a code review, what happens is a junior developer who's like so it'd be like maybe a new college grad who's working at a company, or an intern, or even maybe somebody who's senior like me, but if I've just joined a team and so I'm new to that team, all of the code that I write and that gets incorporated into the project has to be reviewed by somebody else before it actually gets added to the project. And this is one of the things that I personally look for when I'm doing code reviews. I look for try and I call this a naked accept, and I look for these naked accept blocks because they are extremely, extremely dangerous. The reason they're so dangerous is because this catches any exception. Doesn't matter what that exception is. And so maybe, so here, this code, we've sort of tested it. We're pretty confident that this is good code at this point. But I just turned away for a second, and my 3-year-old son was typing on my keyboard like that for a little bit. And I didn't notice that. And so this is no longer valid code up here. This is not valid code. But now this accept it catches any exception, including name errors. And this up here is a name error because this thing right here no longer exists. And so this code that used to be valid is no longer valid anymore, but there's nothing about my program that's going to tell me that it's not valid because it's always going to go into this accept clause. And now every time I run this, it's always going to say this message right here of not replying to a comment that has been deleted because this thing up here is invalid. So that's maybe sort of like an artificial example of how this can happen. But maybe there's other other exceptions that I do want to know about this. Like maybe I have a bug in my generate comment function that sometimes causes the program to crash. But if I have this try except, I'm never going to learn about that because it's going to catch every possible error. In general, you should never have a try and an accept. I thought about actually enforcing that as part of your grade of docking points if you ever have a naked accept. I chose not to do that though because if you do have a naked accept, you're especially on an assignment like this that's fairly complicated, things are going to go wrong. And if you have the naked accept, you're not going to understand why things are going to go wrong. So you're really just punishing yourself. And that's a worse punishment than anything I could do to you grades-wise. Long explanation for the answer of never have the naked accept, always explicitly specify what your exception is here. Did that somewhere in there answer your question, Sophia?
Yeah, thank you. I was wondering because I did the naked accept on my homework 3, and then yeah, I feel like I maybe should go back and change that now though.
Yeah, so my strong encouragement is anytime you're doing try except, always explicitly state what the exceptions are.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yep. Eddie, you have your hand up?
Yes. May I ask you to show the comments without replies equation again? I think I'm getting an index error because of that.
So comments without replies is incorrect right now.
Okay.
This definition right here is incorrect. All I've done is set it equal to not my comments so that we have something in this list to work with. And so
yeah,
we
I
have
got an
something that we can select right here. This random.choice. So if we do say Python 3, import random. Down here, I'm just inside of interactive Python. So all of this is Python code down here. And if I do random.choice of an empty list, then you can get an index error. If you have random.choice with anything that's inside of it, then you won't get an index error. The only time random.choice can give you an index error is if the thing is actually empty, like this.
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
So that's one of the things that as you're working through this assignment, all of these different tasks, these lots and lots of different exceptions are going to come up for totally unrelated reasons. You'll get things that are like Reddit specific like this. You'll get things that are not Reddit specific, like the index error. And that's a really unfortunately named exception that it'd be really nice if the like random.choice actually told you, hey, you passed in an empty thing. You're not supposed to be empty. I think actually Python 3.10, which was released just like a week or two ago, has really improved error messages. So they might have even fixed that particular error message in Python 3.10. But you all downloaded your Python before that was released, so you wouldn't be able to take advantage of that. That's going to be one of the main challenges of this assignment, is all of the different exceptions that will be thrown and figuring out why that exception is happening, and putting the appropriate either try except blocks or the appropriate if statements to prevent that exception from throwing off your program. Let's see. Great questions. Any other questions so far?
First, I have one question.
Go ahead.
So for the prawn exception API exception, this particular error is one. It happens when there's actually the author is deleted or the author equals to none. Is this
That's correct? Yes.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, I think there are other situations where this exception could happen as well, but that's one example of the cause of this exception. Another important exception related to Reddit that you're definitely going to encounter is the rate limiting exception, and that's something that we talked a little bit about in class how to deal with before by sleeping an appropriate amount of time, but I'm not going to right now adjust my code to handle that. Let's see. Okay, so this last task, task 5, the idea of this task is now we have to select a new submission for the next iteration of our program. And then when our while loop goes, the submission variable will be equal to a new submission, and so we'll be creating posts in a new submission the next time the iteration happens. I'm going to give you the outline of what this code is going to look like, but I'm not going to give you the whole thing. It'll look something like submission equals random.choice, and then inside of here is what you're going to have to put, what you're going to have to add. So I'll say just add the right thing here, and this right thing here is going to be whatever you need to do to get the 5 hottest submissions from the bot town subreddit. So that's another thing that we looked at in class. It's in the documentation in the quick start area, but you'll have to reference that documentation and put that right here, and it'll give you a new submission for next time. So the next time when it's going through the loop, at the very beginning, these in this first paragraph right here, the submission.title will be different and the submission.url will be different. And it's important that those are getting printed out so that you'll be able to look at the corresponding web page in Firefox and make sure that things are working correctly. And then down here, you'll be posting different top-level comments or different replies based on what that submission happens to be randomly chosen as. And as over the course of the next 10 days or so, I'll have bots that are posting new submissions to Reddit. So exactly what the 5 hottest submissions will be at any given time are going to change over the course of over the next 10 days. And so you'll be posting into potentially like hundreds or thousands of different submissions right here. Are there any questions about So it's kind of high level for this task 5, but are there any questions about that?
Professor, I forgot where to find the documentation.
If you just Google, so let's come over here. So pra documentation, Google, and it'll be the first link.
Gotcha. Thank you very much.
Let's see, just gonna go look through the homework here, make sure that we've talked about everything. So again, your grading rubric, those 6 tasks, I think we've implemented 4 of those tasks. You just have 2 more to complete on your own. And then you'll have to upload everything to a GitHub repo. That GitHub repo will be worth 2 points. So just make sure that, let's see, the requirements of the GitHub repo are right here. Make sure that you have your bot.py, but again, not the pra.ini file. Again, if this file is uploaded, you will receive a negative score out of 30 because it's just that critical that you do not share your passwords with anybody. And you'll have to create the readme.md file, the markdown file that has this information inside of it. And in particular, so a link to your favorite thread. In order to link to a thread, there's this button permalink right here. Click permalink. That gives me the link to this thread right here. And so you copy and paste that in order to get that right link. And then, oh yeah, so let's run the botcounter.py file again. So we've made a bunch of posts. Let's go ahead and redo the botcounter.py file. So down here is my Python 3 botcounter.py and then the lecture bot command. And so we have a bunch of comments and various things that we've created. And so 11 comments total, but only 5 of them are valid comments that count towards my extra credits. Again, as you're working on this, the botcounter.py file is going to take more and more time to run because every one of your comments, it's going to have to do a special query for it, and it can only do one of those queries per second. The way this file is designed is it's going to look at the 1,000 most recent comments that you have posted. That's the default limit for how many comments Reddit will allow a program to get for a particular user. So it gets the 1,000 most recent comments for whatever username you type in right here. And so it's okay if at the very beginning your first comments aren't all valid comments. Like at this point, our lecture bot is not all valid comments. But then as you keep running, the not valid comments will no longer be in the top 1,000 comments. And if everything's implemented correctly, and in particular, if your task 3 up here is implemented correctly, this comments without replies, if that's implemented correctly, then your valid comments will be 1,000. This number right here will never be above 1,000. And so if we come down here to this grading rubric, these tasks right here, this extra credit right here is in some sense the hardest to get because your bot will have to have every single comment that it's posted be a valid comment. If there's any bug for any reason, that's probably going to manifest itself at some point in those 1,000 comments, and so you'll never hit that 1,000 mark. Any questions about that so far? Go ahead, Eddie.
Hey, Professor, I run the botcounter.py with the username. It just doesn't. Nothing came out. It doesn't have any error either. So I don't know what happened. Maybe
Okay.
I'll ask you after class, maybe.
Yeah, in a minute I'll let you
Yeah,
share your screen and
excellent.
I'll
Thank
take a
you.
look. Let's see, a couple of other tips about the extra credit optional tasks. So here, this task right here, I think is a particularly easy one to do. But for this one right here, you'll want to not modify your current your bot.py file. It's easier to create a separate Python file that creates these submissions and run that one separately. But this is one that I would recommend. This one is, so creating an army of 5 bots. It doesn't require like any programming at all. It's just, you'll have it's just managing all of the different information for all 5 of your bots and making sure that they're all able to run at the same time. There's this concept in computer science called Devops. Come back over here and type that out. So I'm typing right down here right now at the bottom. DevOps stands for Developer Operations. And one of the things that this assignment is really testing is your DevOps skills. And so that's that you have to keep, like you can't, it's not just about making a program that's correct and runs and that's it, but you have to keep this program running for a long period of time. Getting 1,000 comments to Reddit is by itself going to take just a day or two of leaving the program running. But if you have 5 bots all needing to generate 1,000 comments, then that's going to really magnify that. You can have all of those bots running at the same time by just opening up, say, well, there's lots of ways to do it, but you can open up 5 different VS Code windows and each one running a different one of those bots. But that's the challenge of this extra credit. So currently our bot is replying randomly to posts. So instead, if you make your bot reply to the most highly upvoted comment, this will require a little bit of looking through the product documentation about how to actually check which one is the most highest upvoted comment and sorting the comments by their number of votes. The actual amount of code that you need to do this one, it's only a 1-line code change, but getting that 1-line change is maybe a little bit tricky. So it's not, I don't think it's hard, but it's a little bit harder than maybe these 2 up here. And then this one up here is have your bot actually doing the upvoting. So manipulating the votes so that you control what gets upvoted and what doesn't get upvoted. And you'll have to have some sort of if statement in here about like, so I said that suggested any comment or submission that mentions your favorite politician. So something like, I don't know, maybe if a comment mentions Biden, you upvote it if you like Biden, or you downvote it if you dislike Biden. Either way is fine. You get the extra credit either way. I think this is another one that's relatively easy to do, but this does require looking at the documentation in order to figure out how to upvote and downvote comments. There's another one too that I would recommend create a separate Python file for if you want to do this one. If you want to get really fancy, you can get even more extra credit on this one. So you can get double extra credit if you make your condition about upvoting or downvoting doing something called sentiment analysis with this text blob library. The basic idea is that if we had a comment that, well, let's say my bot is pro-Biden, then maybe I want my bot to upvote a comment that is like Biden is a good president. So my pro-Biden bot would want to upvote that. But if I have a comment that says something like Biden is the worst president ever, then I would want my pro-Biden bot to downvote this because this is a comment against Biden and this is a comment for Biden. And this text blob library lets you actually check to see whether something is pro or against a particular topic. So there's a pretty fun one to do, but it'll require looking at the documentation here for text blob. And then this last really big extra credit is we talked about in class these like more fancier techniques for generating comments rather than the Mad Lib style submissions. And if you do implement one of those things and make your bot actually reply to the previous comments instead of just generating something random without any context, then you'll get 5 points of extra credit for that. In the past too, there were some students who suggested like they wanted to do really clever things related to replying to other people's comments. And they talked to me about what they wanted to do. And I said, okay, if you do that, you get 10 points of extra credit or 8 points of extra credit. And so there's really, if you have a cool idea that you want to do, there's no sort of restrictions about that. And willing to give out an appropriate amount of extra credit for depending on the difficulty of your idea. Yeah, the last thing I'll say is that, so don't underestimate the difficulty of this assignment. That, so we've implemented 4 of those tasks, but as you're running your program for a long period of time, like over days, lots of weird edge cases are going to come up. And my guess is that in some of those 4 tasks, you'll get some exceptions being thrown that'll cause your program to like stop running at 2 a.m. And so you're not going to get all of your comments posted that you need. And you might have to go back and edit those sections of code, adding some try excepts for handling different edge cases in the things that we've already implemented. So again, my recommendation is try to get everything complete by this coming Sunday so that you're not stressed out over Thanksgiving, trying to get everything complete and running during Thanksgiving time, that you can just relax and maybe have your bot running in the background while you're eating turkey or whatever you're doing on Thanksgiving. But that's everything that I wanted to cover. So are there any last questions that anybody has about the assignment at all? Let's see, Joe?
Yeah, I had 2 quick questions. One is just when you mean like keep it running at, do we like just make sure we don't click in the computer screen was one question. And then the other one was the same one as Sophia mentioned it in the chat, the most recent question, but just seeing if bugging is the main issue with that.
Okay, yeah, so the first question about how do you keep your bot running, that's going to vary from computer to computer. But yeah, basically your computer needs to maintain its internet connection and needs to stay on. Some laptops will turn off when you close the screen, some laptops won't. So you can just try it and see if it continues posting messages or not. But yeah, the thing that you know will work is just leave your laptop on your desk with your screen open over the night and let it run, and that'll be guaranteed to work. Let's see. So yeah, the question about the sooner you get it done, is it more likely you'll be able to get more valid comments? And the answer is yes. That if you finish by Sunday, you'll definitely have enough time to get the full 1,000 valid comments. And I think if you have perfect code with no bugs and your code runs at maximum efficiency, posting the comments at the maximum rate allowed by Reddit, then it's possible within 24 hours to get the full amount of comments posted. But it's really hard to actually run at like maximum efficiency like that. So I would expect that it would take like maybe 3 to 4 days of running full time to get your full 1,000 comments posted. Sophia?
Yeah, this is kind of just for the extra credit, but I was
Mhm.
wondering if you had any more like good resources in mind for, because I know some of these like text blob or like the like GPT too simple. Like if we haven't worked with those before, are there like specific like YouTube channels or any sort of like website we can use, like the Pra one for Pra?
Yeah, it's a great question. So my guess is that, one of the reasons I selected these things is because I didn't think anybody would have used them before. And so part of the extra credit is being able to like track down those resources on your own and find things that are at the right level for your particular coding knowledge. So I have other than the links that I have in the assignment, maybe, yeah, so there's the links down here actually in the extra credit that you should reference. And then up here in the Mad Libs links, if you click on any of these, say like the subreddit simulator right here of GPT-2, this green text right here has also like a tutorial of how to do this. Other than that, though, you'll have to find things on your own.
Okay, and so for the like the CS40 tutors, since like Biro and Alex have done this one, have they also done like the extra credit part, or is that something that like we would tackle together versus like them giving like tips on, like, since they've done like the regular Reddit bot assignment already? I was just wondering like if it was the same for the extra credit.
So they also had the same extra credit options when they were working on it. I don't know which ones they chose to do or not. Yeah, so I'm not sure if they've what things they've completed or not.
Okay, thank you.
Good questions. Any other questions? Okay, then that's it for today. Let's see, I know Eddie had a question where you wanted to share your screen, so I'm gonna go ahead and end our class officially, and if anybody else wants to, oh, Joe, go ahead.
Yeah, I just had a very quick side question. If we weren't able to finish the Mad Libs lab for today before this, would you recommend for sure getting that done before Friday, and even get started on this video that you just recorded, so that Friday is just questions about the actual assignment?
Yeah, my recommendation is to make Friday a chance to ask questions specific to Reddit stuff that I think the like the Mad Libs lab, there's nothing Reddit specific really about it. So I don't want to say it's necessarily going to be easy or straightforward, but it's there's definitely not going to be anything like super weird that happens. But with Reddit, I guarantee you that really weird stuff is going to happen. Sometimes Reddit goes down and that throws weird error messages. Sometimes you have let's see, so yeah, last semester or last year, what are some weird things that happened? There are a couple of student accounts that were banned for violating different terms of service things. They were using inappropriate words, and what counts as an inappropriate word on Reddit is they don't have a list of what are the inappropriate words, and it changes over time. So it's not your fault if that happens, but things like that can happen. And let's see, other weird things that happen. Um, um, there's yeah, so last time another student wanted to make their posts not just in English but in Portuguese, and that caused some really weird, like strange things for them, and yeah, lots of really weird things are going to happen with Reddit. So try to let Reddit be, or try to let Friday be like Reddit specific.
Sounds good. And like one, I guess, follow up really quick question, but for when we're doing the Mad Libs lab and we're doing our own entries and like possible substitutions for words that we'll be using like the random function that we talked about, should we make sure that there shouldn't be any substitution that would make the sentence like not make sense? Like every sentence should make sense.
Exactly. Every sentence should be a valid English sentence. So
okay,
make sure that it's like grammatically correct, your plurals agree, and yeah. Good question. Any last questions about anything? Okay, I'll stop sharing my screen, and I'll see you all on Wednesday.